Tonight on this episode of The Blitz, Brian Broaddus joins Bill Jones to discuss these new Cowboys coaches and what they're doing at practice. Plus, we talk about those rookies and who might have the biggest impact. And this week, some Cowboys traded pads for bats at the annual Home Run Derby. We'll take you out there. All that and more right now on The Blitz. Welcome in for another episode of The Blitz, everyone. Lindsay, Draper, and Bill Jones. It is good to be back in the studio, and I would say a little bit has happened since I've been back.
Yes, and great to have you back, Lindsay. Of course, Lindsay was along for draft coverage a couple of weeks ago, but now back here on The Blitz, and just in time because things are really happening out here at the Star over the course of the next month.
So many new faces, both players and coaches. We will get into that later, but first things first, Bill, we got to talk about preseason has been finalized, and those are the things right now that we have to look forward to.
You know, it just dawned on me, we are just over 2 months away from the start of training camp in Oxnard, California, with that first game now set for August 9th. Backtrack a couple of weeks, that means probably, although it's not set in stone yet, the Cowboys' first practice in Oxnard will probably be Thursday, July 26th. Just over 2 months from now, Cowboys' first home game will be against Cincinnati on Saturday night, August 18th. The other home game on the schedule, a Sunday night football game against the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, and of course the Texans, that's the last push for those rookies to make their impact, and someone who's not a rookie anymore making his impact would be, let's talk about Jaylon Smith, because he's always been a big question mark. How can he add to this team? What can he do moving forward? And it seems like he is making progress out there.
Yeah, got a little glimpse of him out there. No brace. That's huge as he makes the transition into his second year of playing. Of course, third year in the league. Moving pretty well out there right now, and I think that will be huge for the Cowboys if they can have a very healthy Jaylon Smith in his second full year of playing alongside the rookie Leighton Vander Esch. You're alternating basically with Vander Esch alongside Sean Lee. That could do wonders for this linebacking core.
And everyone has always said Jaylon Smith does better when he can fill in as needed out there, and hopefully he's really taking in from Sean Lee and can kind of be that coach as well.
Well, and then they can also use him, maybe even rushing the passer a little bit. He's got that that ability as well, that explosion to be able to do that, as is evident right there. It looks like in 2018 we are going to see the Jaylon Smith that we saw at Notre Dame, and that's got to be exciting news for Cowboys fans.
Rod Marinelli has always said this is a marathon with Jaylon, not a sprint. And let's talk about the rookies now, because all deals are done. We will talk with Dave Hellman and Nick Eatman later who they think might stick out. But, Bill, I want to ask you, who are you excited about?
Well, I think you really point to the first-round pick as the guy that you really want to watch. But the guy, I kind of lean towards the wide receivers. I said last year they needed to take a wide receiver. They did not take one, and then they waited till the third round this year. And so what with Des Bryant being cut and with all the new faces in the wide receiving corps, Michael Gallup out of Colorado State, the third-round draft pick, is a guy I'm really interested in seeing, and he's going to have a great opportunity over the course of the next few weeks because Terrence Williams, of course, is on the shelf after his surgery. So the opportunity is going to be there for Michael Gallup to show these coaches what he can do.
Can you even just wrap your mind around the dynamic change out there on the practice field without Des, Terrence? These guys have just a literal open field.
Yep, and throw in the tight end position, of course, with Jason Witten not out there for the first time in 15 years. It is wide open as far as tight end is concerned and at the receiving core. And so it's going to be more interesting than normal, I think, this offseason as we go into the preseason to see who wins the competition, because there is legitimate competition this year at those positions.
Something we haven't seen in a long time at those positions. We talked about the new rookies. Coming up next, Brian Broaddus will join us in studio to talk with Bill about the new coaches, their new drills, all kinds of new stuff happening out there at the Star in Frisco. That's next.
The Dallas Cowboys Blitz is brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world. the law offices of Domingo Garcia, the lawyer that works for justice, and by the Dallas Cowboys Football Club. For the ultimate Dallas Cowboys experience, tour the Star in Frisco, where the Cowboys train and work. For more information, visit thestarinfrisco.com/tours. This segment is brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world.
I think he might be as good as any acquisition come in. I mean that now. This guy's really good. He did a terrific job in Seattle. You know that. I mean, that's just the resume's in the tape. But he brings energy, a great deal of intensity, the toughness, but he can relate really well to these players. That's what I really like. He's got it. You know he's got it. So I'm excited.
There's defensive coordinator Rod Marinelli gushing about Chris Rashard, who is all over those defensive backs. There's a lot of those new faces, but guys, Bill and Brian brought us over here. There's a lot of new faces of players, but now we got to learn a lot of new coaches as well. And that's why we got Brian brought us here to break down these coaches, and starting with Chris Rashard. Of course, you got the new linebackers coach, the promotion for Ben Bloom this season, and on the offensive side, the new offensive line coach Paul Alexander, and the new receivers coach Sanjay Lal. Let's start with Chris Rashard, the pass game coordinator. Yeah, and Bill, I'll tell you what, the thing that's interesting about Chris Rashard to me is here's a guy that comes from a system where it's about press man, and he loves to play this technique. And as you can see right here, he's putting these rookies through that technique. It's about jamming with the one hand and then sinking to get in position right there. And that's what they want to do. He's trying to get these guys into position. You saw that a lot with the way Seattle played their back end. Doesn't have Richard Sherman to work with here at the cornerback position. However, he's getting what he can out of these. Absolutely. He's got a young group of guys that are willing to learn, and that's always the best way to go about it. You get a veteran guy in here sometimes, it makes it a little bit difficult, but these young kids will pick up quick. They like to play a lot of press man. If you look at what they were able to do last year when they put these guys on the line, the jam, the release, all that, did a nice job. How about the linebackers coach? Ben Bloom, well respected around here, gets the promotion and a position coach. Yeah, Ben, and his job is going to be now, again, you're in a situation where you're having to deal with a couple of new guys. He's going to have Leighton Vander Esch here, though, and then also with Covington, the young man from Indiana. With Vander Esch, what he's going to need to work with him on, and we saw this in some of the drills, Bill, was his ability to drop. I think Vander Esch can play as a drop linebacker. We'll see right here a little bit, though. This is going to be about depth. He's going to be able to play, again, get to your spot, play with your eyes. That's what Ben Bloom is going to work with him on. Try and get him to play where he needs to be. And they're going to figure out a way to have Vander Esch and Jaylon Smith in a rotation alongside Sean. Yeah, you might even see Jaylon Smith, Bill, play as a down guy, as a rusher. And here's a Covington. Again, he's a young guy, played a lot of that more of an attacking style at Indiana, so they're going to have to find a spot for him. But Ben Bloom's a good guy to coach this up. He's a guy that's a teacher. He's very vocal. He'll get his point across. Of course, new offensive line coach is Paul Alexander. Spent 23 years at Cincinnati. Got something to work with here on the offensive line. He does. He's got a bunch of all-pros. What he does need to do is not mess things up. Figure out a way to coach these guys. But you see right here, I like what they're doing with the resistance bands and stuff, kind of teaching these guys to get to the outside and let their hands and their feet work well together. Again, that's the whole idea. Be able to pull. The Cowboys do a lot, Bill, as you've seen, getting the ball out on the edge, a lot of movement things here. This right here, this is a good drill. I like this, Bill. This teaches you to play with your knees bent, and that's important right there. You got to get that tennis ball, get down, put it on the thing, but it teaches you to settle your weight down. Even in a rookie minicamp, Brian can dissect exactly what the coaches are trying to get out of these players. Receivers coach is Sanjay Lal, and this is a guy who is big time on route running. Yeah, you're right about this. They went 2 days, Bill, without catching a ball. I mean, these guys were doing all kinds of routes. This is one of my favorite drills. I've never seen this before. It's Michael Gallup. Yeah, it's Michael Gallup right there, and he's trying to teach. It's a slow Gallup right there. It's very slow Gallup. But he's trying to teach them to settle their weight down. Watch when they go out and then they plant that foot down. And see, it brings you back in the route. So what he's trying to do is get these receivers to get a feeling of
how to transfer their weight, settle down, come back for the football.
All right, so there's something on some of the coaches, the new guys on the staff. What about these new players? Who caught your eye at the rookie minicamp?
Well, I'll tell you what, the Dorrance Armstrong to me is a good-looking kid. I mean, and you watch him play at Kansas. He plays with some violence, Bill, and I like him as a righty.
He's not going to keep 74,
No, he's not. And then also with Dalton Schultz as well. Those are two guys. I think Dalton Schultz is going to be your starter at tight end when it's all said and done.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The way he bends, he's a blocker, but he can get down and make some plays. I've seen him do some drag stuff, curl stuff underneath. But again, yeah, we're back to Armstrong. And like I say, these guys have got a lot of ability. You look at Armstrong, Kansas, not a renowned football school, but a good player on a bad team. They'll always played hard. Schultz, he's prototypical what you want in a player from Stanford.
And he beat some draft picks, Dorrance Armstrong did, to get some sacks
Absolutely.
at Kansas, and they were not playing from ahead in games either.
Absolutely.
All right, Brian Broaddus, we appreciate it. Just a little breakdown, Lindsay, on what we saw from the coaches and a couple of the players.
I love it. And you mentioned some rookies there. Coming up next, we have Nick Eatman and David Hellman from DallasCowboys.com joining us to discuss which rookies are shining a little bit, who could have the biggest impact in this upcoming season. We discuss next.
This segment was brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world.
Welcome back into the studio. Let's continue the Blitz. Lindsay, Draper, and Bill Jones. We are now joined by Nick Eatman and David Hellman from DallasCowboys.com. Yeah, it's the offseason, but these guys are super busy right now if you've checked out the site at all. But today we're going to throw up the question about rookies. We know all these new names, we know all our draft picks, but we want to know who has an opportunity to stand out. Who are you excited about, Dave? I know you're excited in there.
Well, no, I am, and I'm going to do Nick a disservice because I'm going to steal the obvious one, but it's got to be Connor Williams. I know he's not the first-round pick, but you talk about the value there. You're talking about a guy who a lot of people saw as a potential first-round pick. You can talk about other guys on this team, but more so than anybody, Connor Williams has the best chance to step in and be a day-one starter. Forget chance, he should be. I think that's the expectation. I think he's your starting left guard from day one, assuming everything goes right at training camp. And if he's as good as people think he could be, he should really help that offensive line get back to what we got used to in 2016. From day one of
OTAs this coming week?
I'm putting that expectation on him. I think he should be the favorite. I think he's the first guy to get in there and get a shot at it. And like I said, if he's as good as he's supposed to be, that's what I'm looking for.
Nick?
Well, I mean, I think Dave's exactly right about that. I mean, Connor Williams is the guy, and I agree. I think day one he will be. The guy that I think has a chance to really also make an impact one way or another is Dorrance Armstrong. The defense,
fourth-round pick, Dorrance Armstrong.
Well, you know, I think Dak was a fourth-round pick.
That's right.
I mean, it happens.
That's right.
It happens around here. What I like about him, one way or another, he's going to either push Taco Charlton to be better, or he'll start over him. I think that he's got that kind of ability because they're going to ask him to go in there and rush the passer. Yeah, it's great to be a three-down player, but look at what he can do down the field, too. He's got so much ability in the passing game. I think he's a natural fit to be playing on 3rd and long. You got to get him to 3rd and long, but if you can do that, I think he's going to be a guy that can contribute, and he'll push Taco. I mean, one way or another, I think that he's going to help that defensive line rotation be better.
All right, so then the elephant in the room is the first-round draft pick, Leighton Vander Esch. What kind of impact does he make?
He better have some impact right away.
His first-round pick.
And I say that just because you take him 19th overall, yeah. That's a factor in there. Can he help us today? And I think the answer was yes there.
Yeah, and you know, like I said at the start of this thing, it's not that he's not a good player. It's a little more obvious for Connor Williams. We got to see what exactly the coaching staff has in store for Leighton Vander Esch. He could start at Mike. He could platoon with Jaylon Smith. You could maybe play Jaylon Smith a little bit on the strong side if you wanted to. I'm really intrigued by what Jaylon could do as a pass rusher if you did play Vander Esch at Mike. But the big thing for me, and you know, I repeat myself a lot, but you have 3 to play too. I think Leighton Vander Esch is going to play a gigantic role. But it's a little more uncertain exactly what they're going to do with him starting out, whereas Connor Williams, I think that's just a plug and play.
And Lindsay, you know what's intriguing about this? In this draft class, okay, we've got the mention of Dorrance Armstrong, Connor Williams. We talk about the first-round draft pick. And then Brian Broaddus in our previous segment said the tight end Dalton Schultz is going to start this year.
Yes, a lot of.
We haven't even mentioned Michael Gallup, the receiver.
Yeah, we think he's good, too. Michael Gallup's good.
All right.
And Mike White has a chance to be the backup quarterback here. I mean,
there's so much young young competition right now. This team has gotten so young.
But you know, I mean, Cooper Rush has 4 more passes than Mike White ever, so I think he has a chance to compete.
Interesting point. We got to bring these guys back later on in the offseason. But up next, some of those older players who have already been through rookie minicamps got to trade in their pads for bats. We will go out to the Home Run Derby and take a look next on the Blitz. One of the highlights of the offseason is going across the street to Rough Riders Stadium for the annual Home Run Derby presented by Reliant. We're giving you a behind-the-scenes look at some of these players who are actually pretty good at baseball.
Of course I'm gonna hit one out of the park. What kind of question is that? Like I asked him, John Carlos or Aaron Judge, are they gonna hit one? God.
It's kind of a mixture of Barry Bonds and Ken Griffey, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna go over.
I ain't gonna lie to you, I ain't played this ever since I was 8. So I'm gonna just do my best, you know. They put me last because they know ain't nobody gonna be watching, so I still try to put on the show.
Aha! Home run. Fire them hips first. Bye. Home run. Home run.
We need to raise it. Yo, we need some juice here, boys. Yeah!
Let's go, Smooth! Baby. Knock it out the park, Smooth! Come on, boy.
I don't want to hit again, Jay. Come on.
Let's go, Smooth! Let's go!
Can that do it, people?
Yeah!
We're not done! Woo!
Always a fun time out there and always for a great cause, raising money for the Salvation Army. Last break coming up, but when we come back, we'll get Bill Jones' opinion on what is changing the face of sports all across the world. That's next.
The Dallas Cowboys Blitz was brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world. The law offices of Domingo Garcia, the lawyer that works for justice. And by the Dallas Cowboys Football Club. For the ultimate Dallas Cowboys experience, tour the Star in Frisco, where the Cowboys train and work. For more information, visit thestarinfrisco.com/tours.
I told you guys we'd be getting the opinion of Bill Jones on this. What do you think? Gambling. Wow.
Well, for professional sports teams, Mark Cuban said earlier in the week that he thinks the value of pro sports teams in the 4 major sports will double. In the case of the Cowboys, wow, that's
quadruple.
Who knows? But we've saw what fantasy football over the last decade, 2 decades, however long it's been, has done for the popularity of the National Football League. You can only imagine what it might be like, and who knows? Eventually, you could have kiosk in AT&T Stadium where you can place a bet on a game.
Okay, it's warming up here out in Texas on the field and on your headphones. Have you checked out Cole Beasley's new album, The Autobiography?
I can honestly say I have heard some cuts from it. I haven't made an opinion. I got to listen to more of it to make sure that it is a top 10 hit, although it obviously is.
It's climbing the charts on iTunes. It's crazy. Check it out, iTunes and Spotify. And lastly, we got to get to, do we have an update on Randy Gregory here?
Well, Randy Gregory, the reinstatement papers being filed, and the Randy Gregory is hopeful, and the Cowboys are too, that he might be able to play here in 2018. It's going to be up to the commissioner, up to the NFL to decide what happens there. By the way, check out Mickey Spagnola's column on DallasCowboys.com on the man from Iowa State, the undrafted rookie linebacker Joel Lanning, who also played quarterback. In fact, he first was a quarterback at Iowa State, converted to linebacker his senior season. He's out here with the Cowboys, and check that out on DallasCowboys.com. And just being out here, we got OTAs coming up this week. The next 3 weeks, we have an opportunity to come out here to practice and watch not only the rookies, but the veterans all together and get a real feel for what this Cowboys team is going to look like in 2018 and the mandatory minicamp coming up next month, June 12th through the 14th.
So much competition, not only on the young positions and young guys, but it seems like, Bill, at every big position now on the team.
Yeah, that's right. And that's very unusual in the NFL because usually there's no competition, really. Everyone knows who the starters are going to be. Not so this year at certain positions for the Cowboys.
Things will continue to happen around here at the Star, so until then, we will hang tight and bring it to you next week on the Blitz. Bill Jones, Lindsay Draper, we will see you next week.